Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for this special Herstory Live. I have a very special guest with me today. Máire G is joining us from Feminine Sexual Alchemy. Máire is trained with the Grandmaster Mantak Chia in the Tao Garden in Thailand, where she became a certified Universal Tao healing instructor. She's the founder of the Universal Healing Tao in Ireland, and she also teaches Feminine Sexual Alchemy, which she's going to share all these beautiful insights and wisdom with us here today. On a personal note, I'm blessed to count Máire as a very dear friend of mine. She's one of the warmest and wisest women I know. But firstly, before we begin, I want to make sure this event is interactive. So please type in your questions and your comments into YouTube and the Facebook Live event, and we'll answer as many as possible at the end. And if not, Máire will connect with you afterwards to share her answers and insights. Okay, so Máire, over to you, my dear. My first question.
Hi.
Hi, good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And thank you for the welcome. And yeah, it's great to be able to share this with your community as well. So
we're blessed to have you. So much wonderful wisdom. I know only too well as your dear friend. So I suppose like you've traveled the world and you've studied so many different spiritual traditions, from yoga to Tibetan Buddhism. But you said that you finally found truth in the Tao. So can you share with our listeners today, what is the Tao and how did you find it?
Okay, so I suppose first of all to say that the Tao, and it's usually written actually like Tao, but it's pronounced like a D. So sometimes people don't know what I'm saying. So just to say that first. So the Tao, basically, it comes from ancient China. And it's a tradition that's over 4,000 years old. And so it's really the way. It's known as, it translates literally as the way, or the way of not forcing. And this is basically, it's like a philosophy or way of living. It comes from, I suppose I said it comes from ancient China, but really what it's about is just returning to your kind of true sense and your true source. And there's many different branches of Taoism that are around. And the one that I trained in is inner alchemy. And this is known as the art of health, transformation, and longevity. And in that, you can learn to really cultivate your own energy and to, I suppose, just, live a much more healthy and vibrant life. So that's kind of a little bit, first of all, about Taoism. And then next, I suppose what you're asking me is how I found Taoism. So basically, I was traveling the world. I was in many different places. And I came across Taoism a lot of times when I was traveling, and I started to dream about Taoism as well. And I started to dream about the first few lines of the Tao Te Jing. And this is a very famous book. Actually, it's the second most translated book in the world after the Bible. And once I suppose I kind of, just created this curiosity in me. And I was always kind of interested in things like Tai Chi. And I really, wanted to learn more. And so when I started to learn Taoism, it just seemed like second nature. It was something that was really, it came very naturally to me. But most importantly, I guess it created huge changes in my life very, very quickly. And so I started to notice the impact of it within a few short weeks. And like you said, I tried many different things. I started with yoga and meditation, and I met the Dalai Lama in North India. And I was kind of interested in a lot of different things. And I came to this as well also with a kind of healthy cynicism, I would say. I have a health science degree, so I definitely have that scientific background, as well as, really enjoying esoteric teachings. And so I guess I just noticed some huge shifts in myself and my own energy very, very quickly. So.
Wow. Riveting. Great story. I didn't know that you'd met the Dalai Lama. You've never told me that before.
Oh, yeah.
So one insight that I found really powerful, you shared a brilliant article. You wrote it for Herstory, and we released it this week into the ether. And I was just so struck by the fact that you said in the Tao, there's no church, no dogma, no gurus, and no piety at all. Can you shed a little bit more light on this insight?
Okay, so I guess, I mean, this is one thing that also, I think attracted me to Taoism is that there are like no gurus, like you don't kind of give your energy to anybody else. And probably when I was in school, you know, like I think I was a little bit like that. I kind of just wanted to do things my own way, and kind of carve my own path. So we would really talk about this, about being a path of self-mastery. And so yeah, like there is no real gods or anything like that. You just, I suppose, do the work and do the change on yourself. And it's really a lot about it is like about connecting in with nature. So connecting in with the earth, you know, all of the elements around us that are in the earth, we can draw that into us, and also connecting with the heavens above, or the cosmos as well. So it's very much yeah, it's really the observations of nature, earth, and the universe as well. You know, the Taoists would have observed a lot what was happening in the stars and the planets as well. So I really like that element of it. It's very kind of natural.
It's absolutely fascinating. And it's a very ancient tradition, isn't it? But the Taoists were, in fact, the first sexologists. Can you tell us more about this? Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is really interesting. So I suppose just to say as well, with the inner alchemy Taoism that I teach, like one of the key aspects of it is that we focus a lot on sexual energy techniques. And so, yeah, they really would have been the first sexologists, because there was a lot of information written down where they were very clearly observing, in particular, a woman's arousal, and like knowing when, I suppose, you know, she would have been ready for like penetration or things like that. And so they would have described actually the female sexual response, and they would have, you know, talked about stuff that really, like, you know, I mean, thousands of years later, I mean, this is all like kind of circa 4,000 years ago. And a lot of this would be like, I suppose, kind of, sorry, I don't know what the word is. It's gone from me now. Yeah, it's kind of like showing now what I suppose modern sexologists are showing about the female sexual response. So they would have looked at how women respond, and like her breathing pattern. When the cheeks get rosy, they would talk about the nose, kind of the nostrils flaring a little bit. Her hips would rise, and these would all be signs for the man that a woman is ready, you know, and never to, they would say, don't sail your boat in a rocky river. So they would talk about a woman being aroused enough with enough lubrication. And also, I guess, as well, they would have, I suppose, written a lot of manuals as well around sex. And so, for example, they would have seen it a little bit like cooking or like an alchemy. And there were certain recipes, and there would have been certain sexual positions prescribed at certain times of the day, because it would have this healing benefit. And so this was something to be really studied, you know, to become a skilled lover. Like, this was considered of highest importance. Like, for a woman, when they're with a man, like his skillfulness as a lover was like of the utmost importance. And men would have been taught to really satisfy the woman, actually. And for example, there was a famous emperor, the Yellow Emperor, and he had 4 sexual advisors, and 3 of which were women. And so, yeah, so it's amazing. I think nowadays like, if anybody has 1 sexual advisor, you'd be doing well, never mind 4. But I think one of the things with this as well is just that there was such an emphasis placed on this, and also men were taught to delay their ejaculation and to focus on a woman's pleasure. And so, I mean, it's just so like revolutionary, you know, like, and somehow we lost that for so many years, and it became this very kind of patriarchal view of around what sex and pleasure is. And so in the Tao, they would talk about, you know, a man giving 1,000 loving thrusts to a woman. So it was really like this, like sex was something not to be rushed, and to really take your time. And the reason for that as well is that it was very healing for both sexes. And this isn't more, I mean, a lot of times it's described in more heteronormative terms, but certainly with same-sex couples, you know, you would have like one partner is generally more yin than yang. So it kind of works in the same way, because you're really just harmonizing these energies of yin and yang. That's the main principle of Taoism. So
Mm.
Yeah, so there was, yeah, it was like such a thing to be studied and to devote time to and to understand, and was really a thing that brought a lot of harmony between men and women and between couples as well. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And I love that emphasis on female pleasure. That's such a revelation, especially having grown up in Ireland. And well, we were always, well, we didn't even go there, did we, in school? When you think about it, you know, we did sex ed, it
Mm.
was just taught as a biology class. So it's really a revelation to hear this wisdom.
Yeah. And I think as well for a lot of women, like we spend so much time because there's a lot of fear with that kind of sex education.
Mm.
It's mostly around not getting pregnant or not, getting STIs. And actually, there's very little understood about the benefits of having sex with somebody or making love or just intimacy as well with someone. And there's so many physical benefits, and as well, the emotional benefits of that kind of intimacy as well, or
Mm.
also just the education around pleasure and also around the anatomy as well. And that's something like, for example, when I teach, you find that a lot of people, actually a lot of women, like when they're, can be any age and really don't have a true understanding of their own sexual anatomy. So there's
Mm.
something really empowering about that, about really knowing your own anatomy. Um, and from there, then, and a lot of times when I teach as well, it's really all about discovering what feels good for you as well. But I think just one thing to say as well, Melanie, is just when it comes to sexual energy, um, when I talk about sexual energy, a lot of times people think that we're talking about, arousal and, orgasms or, having sex.
Mm.
And for sure, that's sexual energy. We know that. But also, so that's what we talk about, more arousal energy. But also, sexual energy is also about non arousal energy. And
Mm.
so, this is what we call the kind of latent energy that's stored in the ovaries.
Mm.
For example, in the egg, it holds a lot of this sexual energy. We also call it Jing in Taoist terms. And this is like our life essence, or this is like our constitution. This is what we come into the world with. And so it's really important that we understand that it's both. And this Jing actually has a really important impact on our health and our longevity as well. So, and as we go through life, we tend to lose Jing. And the Jing is
Okay.
also stored actually in the kidneys, and we have to some degree Jing in the vital organs as well. But what happens us as we go through life is that um, we tend to lose this Jing. So for us as women, we lose the Jing or the seed when we have our periods, when we go through menstruation, and also following childbirth as well, or miscarriage. For men, they lose their Jing after they ejaculate, so the loss of the semen. And so part of the Taoist practice is to kind of restore this vital essence
Mm.
that's so important to us to, be very, like, have this very robust health, and
Mm.
also, yeah, to live a long life, as well. So that's one of the things, really, what the practice is that I teach are based on, that is how to really kind of recycle this sexual energy. So we say the Taoists were great recyclers. They knew how to harness the energy, not to lose it, for women, not to lose it month by month. And for men, they would learn techniques to, not lose the semen as well. So, yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. And listen, you described the meditation. It's different to many other practices because it's an energy meditation. It's not just in the mind. I think that's a really important point to highlight.
Yeah, so as part of, I suppose, the Taoist sexual practices, we start first of all to work on the physical practices.
Mm.
So, and this is really important to know. Like, we don't go straight into working with sexual chi at all, but we work with the physical body first. So we start to do like some qigong, and qigong is a little bit like tai chi. Most people will have heard of tai chi. Um, and qigong is a little bit like that. It's kind of more like the building blocks of tai chi. It's used for, health, to get energy flowing through your body. But
Mm.
it's kind of like, it's much more accessible actually than tai chi. Tai chi takes years and years of practice, and there's a set sequence, whereas qigong is a little bit more easy to learn actually, and you
Mm.
feel the benefits immediately. And so this is really key, first of all, to get energy moving through the body. For a lot of people, we can have a lot of stagnation in the body, And it's really important to just get the energy moving. So if you think of it like running water, you don't want it to ever kind of stagnate. If you get a stagnant pool, we get all sorts of problems, or bacteria growing or whatever. So we try to keep the energy moving, energy flowing through the body. And also it's really important, because without physical vitality, you really can't have sexual vitality either. So, and then also we work a lot on the emotions, and really focus on kind of balancing emotions. And this is so important because, first of all, when you work with sexual energy, it's very neutral in nature, but it has this ability to magnify energy. So for example, if I'm feeling super angry or, really sad, and I start to do sexual energy practices, then, well, all it's going to do is magnify that. So we absolutely don't want that. And so we want to work on kind of balancing emotions, and just feeling good within ourselves, so that when we go to work with sexual energy, that we're able to kind of magnify these more harmonious feelings of feeling, like really happy, feeling gratitude, kindness, peace, trust, all of these nice feelings that are within us that we're born with. And what happens as we go through life is we get a bit more stressed. Just life happens, and this has an impact on us and our emotions, which is normal. But what we want to do is we want to try and bring it back more into a balance. And then later, when we start to work with the sexual energy practices, what happens is we're magnifying those good feelings. So really, this is where we come into more like the kind of blissful feeling of the practice as well.
Wow. And I've been blessed because you've been my teacher and you've taught me some of these inner alchemy practices. In particular, I love the 6 healing sounds technique, and we've sat together and we've done it. And for me, it was just a hugely empowering moment to learn that I could use this tool to master myself and my own emotions and my process. And to turn around my emotions in a matter of minutes. And actually, particularly this week, we're running a big campaign to make Bridget's Day a national holiday. And I woke up in the one morning and I just felt like there was a turbulence in me. And and I did the practice, and it just transformed my day. I was a different person, and I was very settled and very balanced and steady in myself, and much more productive. So the tools are really fantastic. They're so accessible. And I suppose I would personally, I would dabble. I would have a great respect and a curiosity about many different spiritual paths and lineages. But for me, what I love about the Tao is just how practical and accessible it is. That esoteric teachings can be very abstract, and you can understand it with the mind, but understanding it is one thing. Creating an embodied experience is it's very different, and that's the great gift of the Tao. It's really wonderful, and I've seen that lightness in you as well, and your teacher, and how there's no piety, there's no heaviness with the practice too. There's incredible lightness and joy, and sometimes when we do it together, we giggle, and that's beautiful. Like, I've never had a spiritual practice like that before, so it's such a gift. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it really is like what you say. It's so accessible to everybody, and again, that was one of the things that really sold me on it, is that like it was literally within minutes I could feel a difference. I remember when I was sold on it, actually, I remember I was working on a project. I mean, this is like 14 years ago or something. And I was working on, I just learned, the 6 healing sounds. I was working on a project, and I was so anxious. I had so much to get done. And I remember I was like, I remember thinking, there's this like sound you can do for the spleen that releases anxiety. And I started to do it, and I did it over and over again. And then I thought, okay, I can do this project now, and so, I mean, it's so amazing that we have these tools within ourselves, and it is really empowering. And I think, my teacher, Mantak Chia, one thing he says, he's like, once you start to do these practices, he says, after a while, you forget your doctor's number. And he says, after a few months after that, you'll actually forget your doctor's name. And it's really this idea that we have this pharmacy within us, like that you are your own kind of physician or your own doctor. And like we do these meditations, we call them energy meditations, but they're very embodied, like you say. And so we go into the organs, and we understand that in the organs, we have different emotions, virtues. And we're really kind of aware of this in the West as well, because we say things like, I feel worried, sick. And so when we feel worried, we do feel it like in our digestive system. And the Tao backs that up as well. We say, okay, this is where we feel anxiety and worry in the like spleen and stomach. And so what we do is we learn we can actually release those emotions, and we do that through a meditation called the Six Healing Sounds, and we release it, and then we focus then on the positive virtues that are kind of innate to those organs. And so for the spleen, we would say like trust and fairness and openness. Like the heart, we know the heart is love. So this is something that some of this is actually quite familiar to us. So people often find that, you know, they might find when they start a class with me, it feels a little bit weird that they're smiling to their liver or something like that.
Yeah.
And often people don't even know where their organs are. That's also another thing is
I
that,
didn't
you
know where
know,
my spleen was. I had no idea. Poor spleen,
yeah,
like so neglected. And we're so, like in the West especially, we're so connected with the heart and it gets so much focus. But all these organs, they work so hard for us and we never connect and give them love. And I've got I've a relationship with all my organs now, thanks to you, Máire. Like it's really, it's a revelation, like, you know?
yeah. And I mean, this is it. It's like, and this is, we call them the vital organs in the West, you know, that's a Western term, the vital organs. And really that's where our vitality comes from, you know, and without them, you know, it's kind of game over. So you know, it's really important to care for the organs, you know, from a physical point of view in terms of like our vitality, but also from an emotional point of view as well. And you know, for some people when they hear that first, they might think, oh, that sounds a bit weird, like you're smiling to your liver, or you know, what's the spleen got to do with you know, what's the spleen got to do with, you know, feeling trust and things like that. But I mean, what I always say to people is just try it and see how it is for you. And then most people, you know, like after they do like the inner smile meditation or the six healing sounds, they feel different in themselves, you know. And not only that, it, you know, that can carry you through the day, or you know, maybe it's the week. And then I guess the more you do this, then the more it kind of transforms you from really deep inside. And we often talk in the Tao about cellular regeneration, you know, DNA renewal through these practices. And that's exactly what's kind of happening with it.
Wonderful. And I've actually personally witnessed your transformation too. I've seen how you've been in a process around something, you've got a challenge and you'll go off, you'll disappear, you'll come back, you'll have done your practice and you're just completely integrated. Like the energy, all the charge is genuinely gone. You've worked through it. It's not like you've buried it back to, you know, the back of your mind. You have genuinely integrated and processed through it. And to be honest, I've never seen yoga or meditation transform in that way before, and I've been on many a retreat. So it's really, the Tao really is wonderful in that it is so accessible, but very, very powerful and very empowering to know that you have these resources within you. That's, for me, was a big thing, really big.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. And I mean, just to say, I mean, it is really complementary. I get a lot of people like who've tried yoga and meditation, or yoga teachers, and like they find it really complementary to the kind of stuff they do as well. So I think and it's complementary, even if people have like a specific religious belief, you know, if, you know, people go to church, or, you know, they go to the mosque, or, you know, whatever, it's really complementary to all of that, because it's kind of beyond that. Like we said, there's no gods, there's no, like, you're not bowing to statues. You know, if you keep bowing to a statue and praying to a statue, we say the statue is going to feel really good, but actually we don't feel really good. So that's why in the inner smile, we actually bow to ourselves, you know, we bow to our own organs as well. So, but I do think it is exceptionally good for emotions. And I think that's probably what people find a lot with it, is that it works so well on emotions. And I think it's like, actually my teacher Mantak Chia, so he would say that the biggest world conflict is the inner conflict that we experience ourselves. And you know, it's really true, like, you know, and I see it so often, like when people come to my classes and we know what's going on in the world, you know, there's so much emotion around what's happening now as well. And I mean, I think it can be really beneficial from that point of view. And I think the other thing to remember as well is with emotions is that they drain your life force, you know. So, and that's why when we see people who are very stressed or under a huge amount of emotional burden, they age very quickly, they don't look well, they can, you know, even look quite gray. And so that's what's really beautiful about this, is when you look after your emotions, you also really look after your physical health as well. So
Everybody wins, yeah, which is really, it's really profound. And what I'm also fascinated by is the fact that you've got 50-50 women and men attending Tao workshops, because normally when we'd go on retreat, it's 90% women, whether it's yoga or meditation. So this is really interesting that the men are drawn as well to the spiritual path as much as the women.
Yeah, it is actually. Well, we haven't had in-person workshops now for a long time, but typically when I had workshops in Dublin, it would have been pretty much a 50-50 representation of men and women. So men are really attracted to Taoism, first of all, because there's a lot in it about sex. So that draws them in. And also there's a martial arts aspect to it as well, which I really love. I really love that martial arts side of it, and it's one of those things that when you learn these practices as well, it's really that balance of the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine within. And so, we have to go into both of those places, and the martial arts, sometimes it might seem quite masculine, but also there's yin in that as well, with Tai Chi as well. And each movement alternates between yin and yang, like proceeding and then retreating. And so, it's really balanced in that way, for sure.
Wow. Fascinating. I also love how poetic the Tao is. Like, it's so reverential, and when it comes to the feminine, you've got these beautiful, juicy terms like the Jade Palace. Can you tell us more about these wonderful terms?
Oh yeah, so there's a lot of beautiful words that they use to describe basically our sexual anatomy. So we have the Jade Palace would be like the womb. We'd call our breasts the bells of love. The clitoris is referred to as the yin bean. So it's really beautiful. And even, there's just so many beautiful terms when it comes to, sex and sexuality, making love. It's so like revered and honored. And I think most importantly as well, it was seen as something that's really important for our health as well, so, and that was one of the things that I was really drawn to Taoism as well, because there's absolutely no morality attached to, sex and intimacy. And it's seen as this, something that really gives us life, that has this very life-giving force for us, can be very healing for us. And not only that, but it's also a huge resource of power within us. So we say that sexual energy is the most powerful energy that we have within us. And so it's really important that we could harness that. It has the power to give birth to a whole human being. This is exceptional energy, and it's also the best of the best of the best energy, because if it's to create another human being, then this is going to be the best energy that we have. So it's like this really can be this really high, seen as this really high quality energy. So it can give us a lot of power. And so we learn practices to recycle that sexual energy, and then we can use that to, give us more brain power. We can draw that energy to the brain, to the organs. You can use it like to, heal different organs. So it's this huge resource that we have within us. And we can, kind of use it and multiply that energy, just to give us more vitality for life. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Absolutely fascinating. And I know you've been telling me about the role women have played in the Tao since the very beginning. And I'm fascinated to hear more about these influential characters, in particular Sun Bu-er. What a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think it's very well documented, that in Taoist history, that there was, that women played such an important role, actually. And, right through all of the concepts that are there, like, that we talk about the mysterious feminine. And this is kind of, I suppose the origins of creation. And women would have been seen as holding quite a special role in terms of that they were, I suppose, the bringers of knowledge, that they had access to some esoteric practices that weren't so easily accessible to men. And they could advance very quickly. They sometimes said that women would achieve enlightenment quicker than men. And so they were seen as these, I suppose, the bringers of the knowledge, and also would have been very skilled in things like herbs, healing, magic, the sexual arts as well. And so this was, they played such an important role. They became masters. There was a group of women known as the Immortal Sisters who practiced the inner alchemy techniques as well. And so there was so much of them, I guess, their presence in all of this as well. So this was really important. I can't see you, Mel, so I just want to check that my connection is still okay.
I'm definitely here.
Oh, you're there. Okay, great. Sorry, it's just I wasn't sure just with
no,
connection. So just to say then with Sumbuer, so she was a very famous Taoist adept in the inner alchemy tradition, and she would have practiced Taoism and started only at the age of 51. So this is really fascinating because so many women come to my workshops or do my online program and they're like, oh, I wish I started this earlier. But actually, I always just tell them the story of Sumbuer. So she basically started when she was 51. She'd had 3 kids, she'd reared them, and now she was in a position to kind of devote and develop herself. And she became one of what's called one of the 7 masters. She's also one of the Immortal Sisters. And she played a huge role. She was in really the revival of inner alchemy practices and maintaining the lineage, which I practice now. And her Taoist name was clear and calm human. So that was really beautiful. And so, she contributed so much to inner alchemy, and the fact that she became immortal and, her legacy is still there, and she would have set up a school and continued the practices. So it's really beautiful what she does. And actually what I find really interesting when she is, started in kind of her later years is that the Tao, they have such a positive regard for menopause, this kind of era for women. And in fact, they call it the second spring. So they see it as this time of real liberation for women. And so that was really, really important, actually, that they could, just, I suppose, have this liberation. They'd finished their child rearing. The periods had stopped, so they had more energy. And so it was just seen as this time that women could have this revitalization, and like that, were really free. So it's really positive, and I really love that. I think it's really important for women to know that. And I guess the other thing to say as well, through these practices, because they have such like a holistic impact on your health, from everything from, we talked a little bit about the physical vitality, the emotions, but also on your hormones. When we talk about sexual energy, we're also really talking about our sex hormones as well. And so it would have a really positive effect on women in that way. So, for example, like, women would have had like asymptomatic menopause, like menopause wasn't a thing. But even now, like, I have friends who are a bit older, Taoist practitioners, and for them as well, they would say that they went through the menopause without any symptoms. And like basically one day just the period stops. So I think that's a real mindset kind of shift for us here in the West, because, there is a lot of, I suppose there's a lot of negativity around it. And and that's also the reality for a lot of women, that they do experience a lot of symptoms. But I think sometimes people don't realize that there are other ways. There are other realities around this as well. And the same goes for periods as well. So, for example, with the Taoist practice, you can have pain-free periods. And so that's, again, this is a real game changer for people, or just, like the kind of it's, so shocking or unbelievable, or, how does that even happen, and, for me, that would be the experience as well. And I know for people who've gone through my program as well. So, for example, like I had one woman recently who did the program, and she had like cysts on her ovaries, she had fibroid on her womb, and was having very, a lot of pain during her periods. And literally within a few weeks was pain-free, and other women who've learned like some practices that I teach around the breast massage would have had like a lot of kind of breast tenderness and, pain. And again, just in a matter of weeks, the pain is gone. So had a lot of kind of breast. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, so just it's like this other reality that maybe people aren't even aware of, that it is actually possible, you know. So that's, and I guess that's one thing for me that I really want to get the message out there, that there is another way with this as well, and that it is possible. I mean, I think the hardest thing is that you have to do a little bit of work yourself, you know, because it's much easier to grab a painkiller and pop that and, you know,
Mm,
complain about your periods or that. So, I mean, it does involve a little bit of work, but not much actually, you know, even just a few minutes a day. It takes 3 minutes to do breast massage. So, I mean, you know, just a few minutes a day will certainly make a difference, you know. So, yeah.
wonderful. And I have to say, a few times I've met you, and I say to you, Maura, you're glowing particularly well today. And you would remark to me, but I have my period. And I was flabbergasted by this idea that not only could you be enjoying your period, but you would actually be glowing. You're so, it's a period of great, great self love and compassion for yourself. And this was just really wow. You know, I really was in awe. And tell me now, has that always been the case for you with your periods?
No, like, I mean, I would have, I mean, just had a regular period, like kind of any, like, you know, just I mean, I didn't have a huge amount of pain when I had my periods.
Hmm.
But I would have had a lot of breast tenderness actually. That would have been, and that would have been painful, like even to hug somebody. So I would have had that experience. And then like my period would have been like, yeah, maybe an average like 5 days.
Mm,
And so
okay.
through the practice, then what I've found is that, so first of all, the blood loss has the loss of blood has reduced significantly. So for example, now it will be more like say 36 hours. Um,
Okay.
and this is like a kind of benefit of the Taoist practice. So you're really recycling the energy so that you lose less blood. And when we lose blood, we're losing this Jing, this life essence.
Mhm.
So when we reduce that, when we cut that down, then it helps us to conserve our vitality and our chi. So that's really important point to make around, you know, when how we work with periods or what kind of changes. Also, what I found and what many women find as well is that the blood changes, so it becomes much more vibrant, um, all of that. So that makes a huge difference as well. When you see that kind of vitality in your blood, you know as well that you're very healthy too. But
Mhm.
yeah, like anyone, I would have got a like PMS and all of that. Um, and now it's so different. And I mean, I certainly, my energy definitely changes. So I definitely feel much more yin. So I go really
Mm,
into myself, but it's really a time of love for me. Like I feel so much love.
mm,
Like really, I find it a really blissful time, actually. It's a really beautiful time. Really connected into the forces of the earth
mm,
and really connected in with nature. And this is a time when we can actually draw in energy from nature, very
mm,
easily draw in. It's like our yin peak. And so for me, then I find it like that, you know, I really in touch with my, you know, my wisdom, with, you know, like a higher wisdom as well, the wisdom of the universe. And I find that really a really beautiful time. Yeah, so it's really beautiful. And also, you know, like it's one of those times at which I find, yeah, I think I look forward to it the most in my cycle. Um,
wow.
so that's really it is a really special time. And I always like take some time
Mm,
off and just make sure that I have time to myself and you know, not do too much, like not be so yang and being like super active. I really respect my body in that way. But
mhm.
it's something to really, yeah. I mean, and like I said, it's so possible for women that within a short period of time that you can, yeah, like have less pain and less PMS and be more in tune with that cycle of what it is to be yin.
Mm.
um, and yeah, and enjoy it as well. Yeah, it's a very beautiful time. So, and there's great wisdom in that as well. You know, that time we're very connected. Yeah.
Wow. And I know that these practices, they were once the closely guarded secrets of the emperor's palace in ancient
Mm.
China. But can anybody do these practices now more?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like absolutely. You know, and this is one of the things that these were so closely guarded.
Mm,
And they would have noticed that the women who were practicing this, so they lived very long, healthy lives. So it would have been women like, in their elder years, but they, looked very young and had this, just unusual kind of vitality as such. And so people were curious, and so the practices were shared, and it was, shared down through like this long lineage of Taoist masters. And in the Tao, actually, like women teach men, men teach women. So my teacher is a man, Master Mantak Chia. And of course, he doesn't have the unique insight of a woman. So you do your own discovery and exploration as well. And I've also, learned from other Taoist teachers, female teachers as well. But actually, one of the things that I find really interesting is that he was really the one who kind of blew this up in the West, a bit of a maverick in his own way, because, even now, actually, even in China, you kind of would have one master, you pay the master for the secret. It takes years sometimes before you get the secret. You have to, do a lot of diligent practice and loyalty. And then you still pay a lot of money in China for this one secret. Whereas my teacher, Mantak Chia, came along and he started to write books about this and published all these secrets. And there was in some ways a bit of an uproar where people were like, oh my God, why is he putting this all out into the world? And I've heard him say so many times there are no secrets. And I find that really beautiful, actually. His vision is very beautiful, actually, and the more people who know these practices, the better the world will be. And that's also a kind of a uniquely Taoist viewpoint as well, because many people want world peace, and they talk about world peace, and they're maybe like, I don't know, like talking about it a lot, but actually the greatest way to have world peace is to work on yourself, So if we take that responsibility to work on ourselves, then we create world peace, because what our energy is in the world is what's creating either the chaos or the peace around us. So that's really, I really love that, actually. I love that we take responsibility. We take responsibility for our health, for our well-being, but also how we show up in the world as well. And that's really, I really like that aspect of the Tao as well, so, you can, just, I don't know, people maybe talk a lot or, want, that, and it comes for being a genuine wish, but actually the best way for to gain world peace is just to work on yourself. And then that in turn just has this ripple effect through the world. First of all, through the people who are close to you, and people that you live with, the people in your community, also the people that you interact with on a daily life. For example, how many times have you had like somebody in, I don't know, some randomer like just piss you off, and then you're like, you're in a bad mood for the rest of the day, or there's like road rage, and then that person passes it on to somebody else, and it's like, it's just one of those things that the more we work on ourselves and the more harmonious we are in the world, then that's actually world peace, is peace within ourselves. So, and I really like that, actually. I really like taking responsibility and doing the work as well, and as I said, it doesn't take much, and it's completely open to beginners, which was your question. So basically it is. And I think what people find is that, you just do like one meditation and you notice the change. And that's what I say to people. If it works, do it. If it doesn't work for you, then go find something else. Because, different things resonate with different people. But what I found is that most people who do this, it's like I said, it's energy meditation. So it's very different to psychology or positive thinking. So, for example, if you feel like emotions like anger or anxiety or depression even, we really can't think those things away, or we can't like just say, oh, I want to forgive this person. That's really like a top-down approach. It's really like a kind of psychology. But, really what you do is you go within yourself and you change what's energetically happening in your organs. And that in turn changes your behavior, your mood, how you think, and also how you act in the world as well. So it's really, Yeah, it's very profound actually when you do it, and like I say, just see what happens within yourself, so
Yeah, and I think it's of its time, probably now more than ever, in a world where we're so easily triggered and the polarities have been stretched to the extreme, that if we have these
Mhm.
practices to, instead of being triggered all the time and to be in a state of anger and anxiety, that we can alchemize these energies and to do something very positive with this. It's ultimately it's energy, it's what you do with it and how you alchemize that, and to
Mhm.
really rethink our relationship with these emotions too. Like you're saying about world peace. I love that Mandela quote: "Be the change you wish to be in the world." And
Yeah.
I decided to adopt Paulo Coelho's definition of success, because if you think about success and in our contemporary world, it's always about, profit margins and, achieving so many likes on Facebook or Twitter. Or but for me, it's Paulo Coelho. He said he measures his success on how peaceful his soul feels at night. And when you're in a state of
Mhm.
peace, like the creative inspiration, the flow, the quality of relations, everything flows beautifully when you
Absolutely.
think of that. And it is possible. It's not impossible. It is possible to
Yeah.
be surrounded by chaos and to be in a state of peace and flow. It's the Tao really is a way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, even just on that thing of like transforming emotions, like I love what you've done, Melanie, with Herstory, because, you're working with, women and feminism. And actually, often there can be a lot of anger around the patriarchy. And I think what you've done is you've transformed it in a very compassionate, in a very healing way, actually. So it's really about moving forwards. And I think that's really beautiful. What you've done with Herstory, and the vision that you have for that as well. It's very, I know you've used the term before, compassionate feminism, and I find that really beautiful as well, to with that. So
More. Like I'll have to be honest, like that was a dance, and I really had to hold up a mirror up to my shadow and to call out my anger and this projection of this rage on men and the men close to me, and like thousands of years of suppressed anger. What I
mm,
mean, I was becoming a little Tasmanian devil for the wrong reasons,
yeah.
and then alchemize that into light. So that's why I do the Light Festival, because it's so healing and
Mhm.
transformative, and it is compassion. But when I show up to those light festivals, I have that anger has to be gone. It
Yeah.
has, yeah, that's my pact, my intention that I do for my own personal, physical, emotional well-being, but also for the collective too.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility. But sometimes
Beautiful.
I'm an angry feminist, and sometimes I need
That's
a little bit of
okay.
rage, and then
And
it needs to find its healthy expression. But yeah,
totally.
alchemy for me is it feels very natural, and it feels
Mhm.
absolutely essential in our times, that we cannot
Mhm.
and we should not get into a habit of spinning in rage or
Yeah.
fear. That we do as people, we have these, and as souls and as bodies, we have this incredible ability to transform difficult emotions. It is
Yeah.
innately to do that, and the gift is in the
Absolutely.
Tao, and those 6 healing sounds. My God, it's a revelation.
Yeah, it is.
Never been
It's so
happier.
Yeah, great. And that's the thing. I mean, it literally takes 20 minutes. And I mean, I
Mm,
just think the quality of life that it can give, everyone it makes such a difference. And I think also just to say about emotions, like we don't shy away from the negative emotions. Like we don't consider, and even the term negative, like I kind of sometimes say negative emotions, positive
mm,
virtues, but it's more like just in terms of like being opposites.
yeah,
But what I would say is that we don't actually really see emotions as being like negative. They're just emotions. So for example, like it's so normal to feel anger, like and it's
yeah,
okay. So whereas I
yes,
think sometimes I found before in spiritual kind of circles that people are really they get really shocked by anger or hatred. Nobody wants to say they hate somebody. And like the
mm.
moment you actually admit you hate somebody, like that's
Ooh,
success, because we do feel hatred,
amazing.
and
Yeah,
it comes and goes. But I think hatred is one that people are even more afraid of than anger, in my experience anyway, in
yeah,
spiritual terms, you know, saying that it's okay to feel hatred is quite shocking for people. But the
mm,
reality is that it's what you do with that then. So it's like, and that it doesn't become so extreme and that it doesn't take over as well. So once you realize, once you acknowledge that the emotions are there, then you can do something to transform it. And
mm,
like I said, one of the main ones that we use will be the 6 healing sounds, where we do like a sound and a qigong movement, and we release it from the organ. So the organ is clear, And then so energetically it's kind of changed as well. And we kind of then embody then these kind of virtues that we're born with, you know, we're born with so much good virtue.
And I think as well, from what I've seen, when you teach the Tao, there's no judgment as well in how you approach emotions. And this is the big thing from, you know, being brought up in Catholic Ireland. Judgment for me, it can be very rigid. It can get us really stuck in a trap. We can't really move beyond it. Like, it's like you're almost in a cage. And how can you liberate yourself? And how and who are we as well if we're full of judgment of ourselves? How can we move beyond? How can we be our best selves, you know, if we're stuck in this judgment and guilt trap? So I think that was a lovely thing about the Tao, is like there's no talk about judgment at all. It's all about alchemy and moving forward and transforming, and it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, again, like I said, it just gives you the tools that you need yourself to be as you know, as as healthy and at your best self as well, you know. So I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
You can create the change within, and you don't need anything either. That's the other thing. You don't need, you know, you need nothing.
You just show up today. Speaking of which, you have a new course coming up starting this month. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about the course and how our followers can find out more?
So I have a 9-week online program that I run, and it's called Feminine Sexual Alchemy. And so that is starting on October 18th. And the gates for that open this Tuesday. And they close the Friday before. So it starts on Monday the 18th and it closes the Friday the 15th. And so, yeah, and it's, like I said, open to women of all ages, beginners, if you've never heard of the Tao, anything at all. It's a real journey of, I suppose, self-love, discovery, empowerment around your own health and your hormones. And I think women will come away with a lot from it. I think what some people have said before is, you know, it is, a lot of it is also about sexual energy, but we don't go into the sexual energy until the 3rd module. So that's important to know as well, because sometimes people can feel a little bit afraid of this, or, you know, not quite sure what it's about. So I think it's important just to know that as well. We have a lot of kind of safety valves and lay a good foundation before we start to go near anything to do with sexual chi or sexual energy. And so I teach a lot of practices which are really good for our hormones, like breast massage, and we do an ovarian kung fu practice, which is
Tell us more.
So that's a little bit where you recycle the energy you draw the energy from the ovaries, and you use it then to, you know, strengthen your organs and your brain. And so it's really powerful practice as well. And so, so there's a whole load of, it's a mix of kind of physical practices, meditations, energy cultivation practices, sexual energy techniques. And then also I have like a weekly support circle. So the course itself, you can do, it's like a video course, so you can do it in your own time. And then we have a live weekly support circle where we kind of get together and we share your experiences, your questions, and we go a little bit deeper in that as well. So so it's open to everyone if anyone wants to join or
fantastic
ask about it.
Yeah, so do we have any questions actually from our viewers today? We're getting some beautiful feedback. Ina says, thanks so much for sharing such wonderful wisdom. She said she's learning so much. And Rosemary says, very interesting, would love to hear more about this. And big heart and stars from Laura, lots of love and likes. So, but no questions. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? You can always follow up with Máire directly as well.
Yeah.
Or do you want to share your Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, so you can find me Feminine Sexual Alchemy on Facebook and Instagram, both the same, Feminine Sexual Alchemy. That's me.
Fantastic. I will share the links as well on the Facebook and YouTube pages as well.
Great.
Okay.
Cool.
No questions at all.
Great.
Memorized.
Oh,
Quite a revelation. It leaves a lot to think about, actually, doesn't it? It's a whole different way of thinking and experiencing our sexuality, especially as women. You know, it's really. Thank you for bringing this gift and making it so accessible to women from all over the world. That's the beautiful thing, is it's an online course, so it doesn't matter where you are, you can do the course, and Máire is going to be doing it for many years to come.
Yeah,
the next stage is this month. So thank you so much, Máire. We're really honored to have you here today. for wisdom and for showing up in your authentic soul expression. It's beautiful to know you personally, but also to share your wisdom with Herstory. So
Thank you so much, Melanie. Thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, I mean, I'm such a fan of your work and you personally as well. But I think what you do with Herstory is so amazing. So I'm really honored actually to be invited here with you today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks to all of our beautiful followers and viewers for taking this time on your Sunday morning to have an enlightened start to the day. It's a real gift. I hope it set you up now for a pretty spectacular Sunday. So, okay, until the next time. Bye.
Bye.